Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Krishna
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare Hare,
Hare Hare
Hare Rama,
Rama, Hare Rama,
Ram
Rama
Rama,
Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada,
Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Haribo,
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 Haribo.
Haribo, Nitai Gora Haribo.
Nitai Gora Haribo, 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 Nitai Gora Haribo.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jaya
Madhava,
Kunja Vihari.
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari.
Jaya Gopi Jaya Radharani.
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari.
Gopi Giridhari.
Yashodanandana Vrajajanarandana.
Yashodhana Raja Jana Ranjana.
Yashodanandana Vrajajanarandana.
Yashodarangana Vrajanara,
Jana Ranjana.
Yamunatira Vanachare.
Yamuna Tira
Yamunatira Vanachara,
Vanachari.
Yamunatira Vanachare.
Yamuna Tira
Tira Vanachara,
Vanachari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari.
Jaya
Punjabi
Vihari.
Jaya Radha Gokulananda Radha Gokulananda Radhe.
Jaya
Radha Gokulananda Radha Gokulananda
Radha.
Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo.
Nitai Gaura Haribo, Haribo, Haribo.
Shri Hari Nam Sankirtan Yagi ki jai, Shabako
Jai,
Pad ki jai, Samadeka Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Nitai
Jai,
Gaur Premanande.
Haribo.
Om Agyanti Mirandasya Vinandana Chavakaya Chakshurmilitam Yana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manabhishtam Sthapitam Yana Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Panchagopatruvyascha Kripa Sindhubhavacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mahatprema, Puravi Burnirma Kshatriyadam Shurushabham Tegunan Sadasa Sadasatmaka, Yalang Krishis Bhagavan Macham Sime. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Namo
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 Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Aya.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So since we have got no special requests, I assume everyone wants to continue with the reading of Bhagavatam.
Maharaj, we did have one request, but I think like we can start that next week. Is basically to discuss on Lord Nrsimhadev.
Oh yeah, okay. So start from from Monday.
Yeah, we can start from Monday. Yeah.
All right, yeah. 7th Canto Ki Jai.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, yeah. So tonight we'll continue with Giridhari, Mahima, glories of the Lord Giridhari. It's quite amazing, right? That he was Gopal and then he turned into Giridhari. And after he put Govardhan down, he turned into Govinda. Same person. Many different forms. So we'll start chapter 26, One Krishna. So we need a volunteer to read chapter summary for us. Hare Krishna. No volunteers? Or we don't have anyone who is literate today?
I can do it, Maharaj.
Okay. You can see it on the screen?
Yes, Maharaj. So, in this chapter, Nanda Maharaj describes Krishna's opulences to the cowherd men as Nanda had heard of them from Garga Muni. The cowherd men, unaware of Lord Krishna's power, were amazed to see his various extraordinary activities. The men approached Nanda Maharaj and told him that after seeing how Krishna, a boy only 7 years old, had lifted a mountain, and how he had previously killed the demoness Putana and generated extreme attraction in the hearts of everyone in Vrindavan, the men had become doubtful and bewildered about how Sri Krishna could possibly have taken birth in the unsuitable environment of a cowherd community. Nanda replied by relating to them what Garga Muni had told him about Sri Krishna. Garga Muni had said that in the previous 3 ages, Nanda's boy had manifested himself in white, red, and yellow forms, whereas now in the Dwapar age, he had assumed his darkish blue form, Krishna Rupa. Because he descended as the son of Vasudeva, one of his many names is Vasudeva, and he has innumerable other names indicating his many qualities and activities. Garga Muni had predicted that Krishna would prevent all sorts of catastrophes in Gokul, spread unlimited auspiciousness, and increase the ecstasy of the cowherd men and women. In a previous age, he had provided protection for the saintly Brahmanas when they were harassed by low-class dacoits, and there was no proper ruler in society. As the demons in the higher planets can never defeat the demigods, who have Lord Vishnu on their side, no enemy can ever defeat those who love Krishna. In his affinity for his devotees and in his opulence and power, Krishna is just like Lord Narayan himself. Overjoyed and awestruck by Garga Muni's statements, The cowherd men concluded that Krishna must be an empowered representative of the Supreme Lord Narayan. Thus they worshipped him and Nanda Maharaj.
Haribo. So we need, again, devotees who can read Sanskrit. I suppose Utkarshini again.
If nobody else is reading, I can do it, Maharaj.
Okay, for your purification.
I
Definitely.
can do the translation, Maharaj.
Okay,
Maharaj, I can do the purports.
very good. All right, we're waiting.
श्रीशुक उवाच एवं विधानि कर्माणि गोपाः कृष्णस्य वीक्ष्यते अतद्वीर्यविदः प्रोचुः सम्भ्येत्य सुविस्मितः.
Translation. Sukadeva Goswami said, the cowherd men were astonished when they saw Krishna's activity, such as lifting Govardhan hill. Unable to understand his transcendental potency, they approached Nanda Maharaj and spoke as follows.
Srila Vishwananta Chakravarti Thakur explains this verse as follows. During Lord Krishna's pastime of lifting Govardhan hill, the cowherd men simply enjoyed the spiritual bliss of the Lord's activities without analyzing them. But afterwards, when they had returned to their homes, perplexity arose within their hearts. Thus they thought, now we have directly seen child Krishna lift Govardhan hill, and we remember how he killed Putana and other demons, extinguished the forest fire, and so on. At the time, we thought that these extraordinary acts occurred because of a benediction from the Brahmanas, or because of Nanda Maharaj's great fortune, or that perhaps this boy had achieved the mercy of Lord Narayan and was thus empowered by him. But all these presumptions are false, because an ordinary 7-year-old boy could never hold up the king of mountains for 7 whole days. Krishna is not a human being. He must be the Supreme Lord himself. But on the other hand, child Krishna loves it when we coddle him, and he becomes morose when we, his uncles and well-wishers, simply worldly cowherd men, do not give him attention. He appears to become hungry and thirsty, steals yogurt and milk, sometimes plays tricks, tells lies, chatters childishly, and tends the calves. If he is actually the Supreme Lord, why would he do these things? Don't they indicate that he is an ordinary human child? We are totally unable to establish the truth of his identity. Therefore, let us go and inquire from the highly intelligent king of Raj, Nanda Maharaj, and he shall free us from our doubts. According to Srila Vishwananta Chakravarti Thakur, the cowherd men thus made up their minds, and then they entered Nanda Maharaj's great assembly hall and questioned him, and as described in the following verse.
Yes. So basically this purport is covering most of what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains. Yeah, just directly quoting it. And so it's very interesting that when they were with Krishna, they were on ecstatic level, but when they lost this close association with Krishna, they started doubting how it was possible for this boy to lift Govardhan hill. And we can see they were always finding some excuses or some explanations how Krishna could kill Putana and other demons, how he could extinguish forest fire, etc. So they would attribute it to the benedictions of Brahmanas or Nanda Maharaj's fortune or maybe empowerment by the Supreme Lord. But now when they saw how Krishna lifted Govardhan hill, they could never attribute this to any of the explanations. So, because it was literally never done before or after. It's completely unique pastime. That 7 years old boy, I mean, nobody ever lifted such a great weight with so much ease. Krishna was not and he was smiling. He was holding Govardhan with his left hand. What he was doing with his right hand? Anyone knows?
Playing flute.
Yeah, he was playing his flute. So enjoying himself. I mean, we have weightlifters who train so vigorously and then they lift this weight and they hold it for a few seconds and then they throw it down with great relief, right? And then they become big champions. It's so funny. So they had to train so much, and that even then they can hold it only for a few seconds. But Krishna, and they're not young, they're mature adults. But Krishna here defied everything, defied imagination. That 7-year-old boy can do that, pick up such a big mountain and hold it with no effort whatsoever. And I mean, forget about the mountain. Can anyone just hold an empty hand lifted in the air for 7 days and nights? It's only Krishna who can do that. So that's why actually atheistic people, they refuse to believe in Krishna because his existence is too much of a challenge for them, because even when they what do you call it, fantasize, like they have all these like movies, Hollywood production movies, where in different mega powerful people fly and fight and exhibit great powers. But these kind of things, they can't even imagine. So Krishna is beyond even their imagination. What to speak of imitation, and because they imagine these things and display them because they always hope that maybe someday we humans can become so powerful so we can become like gods. So in the heart of hearts, everyone is maintaining this hope that one day will become God. But real God is so unbelievable that there is no chance to imitate him. And so that's why they say, no, it's not possible, right? That Krishna ever existed, even. But there are so many scientific proofs of Krishna's existence, starting with Dwaraka, which is still there, so many other things, and all the deities of Krishna, etc., etc. And yeah, Govardhan Hill is still there. We can still go around Govardhan Hill and really feel spiritual influence. coming from Govardhan Hill. Get all the benedictions. And but Krishna is exhibiting such powers as the Supreme Lord himself, but then he behaves himself as human child, and it really confuses them. So in their confusion, they go to Nanda Maharaj, and they're hoping that he will have answers to their questions. So it becomes quite interesting from this point onwards. So let's read the second text.
बालकस्य यदेतानि कर्माण्यत्यद्भुतानि वै कथम् अर्हत्यसौ जन्म ग्रामेष्वात्मजुगुप्सितम्.
Translation. The cowherd man said, "Since this boy performs such extraordinary activities, how could he warrant a birth among worldly men like us? A birth that for him would seem contemptible."
Right?
An ordinary living being cannot avoid unpleasant circumstances, but the Supreme Controller can always make perfect arrangements for his pleasure.
Yeah. They are asking, why, if this is the Supreme Lord, why he chose to appear in the coward man community, why he didn't choose to appear in a royal family. Actually, he did, right? He came as son of Vasudeva and Devaki, but then by his own choice, he wanted to go to Gokula, Braj. And so they think, why the Supreme Lord would want to choose himself such life, like go and herd cows and live in a village, very simple atmosphere. And it's really confusing for many people how God can herd cows. I think it's only Vaishnavas, right? They're saying these things because everybody else's perception of God is that he's very royal and very majestic, and he's sitting on the big seat, and then he's deciding on people's destiny, etc. But yeah, these are very confidential pastimes. All right, let's see what happened next in that conversation. Text 3.
सप्ताहायनो बालः करणैकेन लीलया कथं बिभ्रत् गिरिवरं पुष्करं गजराडिव.
Translation. How could this 7-year-old boy playfully hold up the great hill Govardhan with one hand, just as a mighty elephant holds up a lotus flower?
Yeah. So Srila Prabhupada, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, it's very short purport. The coward man said, if this child is not the Supreme Lord, who could he perform such astonishing feats? This is the intention of the next 12 verses. How did a 7-year-old boy hold Vibrat Govardhan in one hand for 7 days? The following verses answer this question. Yeah, interesting. 7-year-old boy held Govardhan for 7 days, maybe just, to commemorate his age or something. How he could do that. Next, 4.
तोकेनामीलिताक्षेण पूतनाया महोदसः ईतस्तनसः प्राणे कालेनेव वयस्तनोः.
Translation. As a mere infant who had hardly yet opened his eyes, he drank the breast milk of a powerful demoness, Putna, and then sucked out her very life air as well. just as the force of time sucks out the youth of one's body.
Mhm.
The word vayaha in this verse indicates youth or lifespan in general. With irresistible power, time takes away our life, and that time is actually Lord Krishna himself. Thus, in the case of the powerful witch Putana, Lord Krishna accelerated the time process and within an instant withdrew the duration of her life. Here, the cowherd men mean to say, how could a mere infant, who could barely open his eyes, so easily kill a very powerful demoness?
Mhm. So this comes from some other purport, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says here the government mean to say, how could a mere infant with half-closed eyes, Amilita, so easily kill a very powerful demoness? Half-closed eyes indicate that this was done unseen by others, just as unnoticed. The irresistible power of time takes away one's life. So, time and tide wait for no man. And Krishna is time personified, and he shortened the duration of Putana's life without much effort. In the relation to this story, also acharyas are explaining that in order to kill such demons like Hiranyakashipu, the Lord had to assume the form of Nrsingadev, and to kill Hiranyaksha, he assumed a gigantic form of Varahadev. But in order to kill Putana, demoness, Krishna hasn't changed his form at all. He just remained in his baby form and killed this demoness. So, and that's why Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that this is the proof that Krishna is Bhagavan Swayam, the Supreme Lord himself. He doesn't have to assume any form to match demon. He just remains as he is in his original form, and all demons just die when they touch him. Like anyone who touches live wire with high voltage has to die, right? So anyone who is touching Krishna with evil intentions, then all these evil intentions, they kill these people.
श्रीमतोदयानस्य मास्यस्य तरणावुदक् अनोपतद्विपर्यस्तं रुदतः प्रपदाहतम्.
Translation. Once, when only 3 months old, little Krishna was crying and kicking up his feet as he lay beneath a huge cart. Then the cart fell and turned upside down simply because it was struck by the tip of his toe.
Yeah. So just 3 months old, kicking a cart, not just cart, but cart, as we understand, heavily loaded with different metal utensils, right? Very heavy load. And just because of his kick, just by the tip of his toe, he made the cart fly into the air and turn around and fall on the ground and break, and all the metal utensils were scattered around here and there. It's very interesting pastime, right? Because he killed that demon who took the form of a cart. Of course, we can wonder how a demon can take the form of a cart. But Prabhupada explains, and Acharyas are explaining that this demon didn't have physical body, so he was a ghost. And ghosts can take the bodies of inanimate objects. What do they call this phenomenon? Poltergeist? When, tables and chairs start moving because some ghosts hunt them. They're supposed to know because the British people are so proud of their ghosts and spirits, right? There are many different, what you call them, castles, ghost haunted castles, and people pay a lot of money, tourists pay a lot of money to go into those places to have experience with ghosts. So yeah, is it called poltergeist when the ghosts enter into inanimate objects? So yeah, this is what it was. And this demon again was sent by Kamsa, and he was looking for the opportunity to kill Krishna. And it was actually Krishna's Janmashtami, and they were celebrating that. And many guests, and of course, everyone wanted to kind of touch Krishna and entertain Krishna. And so Krishna was getting a lot of attention from all sides, right? So many guests. And basically, he got a little tired of all this excessive attention to his persona. And he became sleepy, like little children. They need extra rest. And Mother Yashoda was busy receiving guests, this and that. And, it's like, even though they're king and queen, but they're king and queen, Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda, of the cowherd men. So it's a kind of simple village setup. And so, village people are normally more simple than the more sophisticated residents of the cities. And so she just decided to put Krishna underneath a household cart to rest for a while and then pick him up again. And she did that. And Krishna knew that Krishna actually slept underneath the cart. And then he woke up, and I think most of you know very well what kind of celebrations people have in India, and apparently it's not a new phenomenon. It's happening practically forever. Like these events, which actually happened 5,250 years ago. And Krishna took birth in 3030 BC, right? And now we have 2020 AC and or CE, whatever you call it, right? Christ era. And still, it is described in Bhagavatam that it was very noisy celebration because so many musicians were there playing their musical instruments, and brahmanas were chanting their mantras and doing yagya, and of course to hear each other through such noise, people had to talk very loudly with each other, so it was very, very noisy environment. And so they, after Yashoda put Krishna underneath the cart and she was busy with guests, and then Krishna took enough rest, and then he woke up and he started crying, waiting for his mother to come and pick him up, and she was not coming. And Krishna became agitated by this, and then he noticed that there was a demon in the cart trying to, kind of crush him with the weight of the cart, looking for the opportunity. And then Krishna fulfilled double purpose. First of all, he wanted to create a noise which would be loud enough to attract Mother Yashoda's attention, distract her from the guests. And along the way, this demon got also killed, which was just, concomitant factor. It was not the main purpose. But basically, he wanted his mother back, and then he created this noise. And you can imagine, it was like dynamite explosion, right, in the house. And so this, all these metal utensils, they all scattered around with huge noise. And so it was not just Mother Yashoda, you can imagine, everyone, it was like dead silence after that, right? Everyone just, kind of froze. What happened? And the musicians didn't stop playing, and Brahmins stopped chanting their mantras halfway. And then everyone ran to the scene, and then they saw Krishna and picked him up and all. And so it's very interesting. It's just such a little boy, and he can do such amazing things. So they're reflecting on these pastimes. Next.
एकहायन आसीनो ह्रियमानो विहाय स दैत्येन यस्कृणावर्तम् अहन् कण्ठगृहातुरम्.
Translation. At the age of 1, while sitting peacefully, he was taken up in the sky by the demon Tranavata. But Devi Krishna grabbed the demon snake, causing him great pain, and then thus killed him.
Mm-hmm.
The cowherd men who loved Krishna as an ordinary child were astonished by all these activities. A newborn infant cannot ordinarily kill a powerful witch, and one would hardly think that a 1-year-old baby could kill a demon who has kidnapped him and carried him up into the sky. Krishna did all of these wonderful things, and the cowherd men were enhancing their love for him by remembering and discussing his activities.
Okay, yeah. I hope you're also enjoying hearing about Krishna's love. So Trinavarta, and this whirlwind demon was so powerful that he created huge storm. Basically, it was what you call a tornado, and tornadoes are very powerful. And so it was a tornado. He came in Vrindavan as tornado, and then he picked up Krishna, and he wanted to kill him by throwing him down from the height. And Krishna, actually before Trinavarta came, Krishna was on the lap of his mother, Yashoda, and they were enjoying very simple game. Mother Yashoda was throwing Krishna into the air, and then catching him, and then throwing him and catching him. So for Mother Yashoda, Krishna appeared to be very light, because Krishna can be lighter than the lightest. But then Krishna, while enjoying this game, he also knew that Trinavarta is about to come, and he didn't want to shock Mother Yashoda by the experience of Trinavarta taking him away from her lap. So what did Krishna do? Krishna made himself very heavy. And Mother Yashoda became very concerned. Suddenly Krishna was very light, and then he became very, very heavy, and she was thinking, oh my God, what's happening? And because she already had experience of different demons attacking Krishna, she was thinking, no, it's not a good sign. And then she went for brahmanas, to call brahmanas to quickly do some yagya or chant some protection mantras for Krishna, right? And after she left, immediately Trinavarta came and picked Krishna up. So nothing happens without Krishna's desire. So why Krishna allowed himself to be picked up by Trinavarta? Anyone knows? This is a question for you. Nobody knows? Anyone wants to know?
Yeah.
Okay. So because Krishna wanted to enjoy, he enjoyed Mother Yashoda throwing him into the air and catching him, but how high Mother Yashoda could throw him into the air, and Krishna, somehow everybody wants to fly, right? Have this experience of flying. And I don't know about you, but I'm taking a lot of flights, not now, not presently. Right now I'm pretty grounded. And yeah, it's like just today I was thinking, oh my God, it's 1.5 months. 6 weeks, not moving anywhere. And this is unbelievable. How can I tolerate it without much effort, I suppose? Because devotee is keeping me engaged, that helps. But it's been my biggest attachment since my childhood, flying, the airplanes. I'll share one of my biggest secrets. I'm not actually a devotee, but I'm pretending to be a devotee because I want to continue enjoying taking flights. And somehow, ISKCON is a good movement because you can fly here and there, because there are so many temples around the world. Anyway, flying, many people enjoy flying. Why? Because Krishna is enjoying all these things. And Krishna wanted to enjoy flight, but at that time, the airplanes were not invented yet. And if Krishna would fly on his own, that would be pretty scary, because little children are not supposed to fly. But he used Trinavarta as his private jet. And so he allowed Trinavarta to kidnap him and carry him up into the sky. And of course, Krishna's purpose was to enjoy a good flight, but it was not Trinavarta's purpose. Trinavarta's purpose was to throw Krishna down and crush him against the ground. And Trinavarta grabbed Krishna And Krishna grabbed Trinavarta. So it was very reciprocal. He grabbed his neck. And so they went off high into the sky. And I mean, to crush little baby does not require great height, right? But Trinavarta flew quite high. Anyone knows how high Trinavarta went? Actually, it is described that he went 100,000 high. And as we understand, yojana is 8 miles, correct? Anyone remembers?
Yes, Maharaj.
Yes, 8 miles. So they went up 800,000 miles. I can't remember what, what's happening there. 800,000 miles at 800,000 miles high. So, but you can imagine. I mean, they flew so high. Probably the modern day astronauts, they don't go that high. So they went probably out of the Earth atmosphere even. And, it didn't require that, to go that high for the sake of throwing Krishna to the ground. But Trinavarta did that because Krishna was enjoying the flight so much that Trinavarta actually forgot his purpose. He got excited also, that Krishna's association made him excited. And so he was going higher and higher and higher and higher. And Krishna was enjoying, like, wow, it's so amazing that from this height, all of our houses, they look like little toys, and the forest looks, like, bunch of grass, etc., etc. And then they were going higher and higher. And then at some point, Krishna looked, okay, this is the planet, and it becomes smaller and smaller. And then he was enjoying that, of course. Krishna was the first astronaut, apparently, of his times, thanks to Trinavarta. But he didn't even require special, what you call it, special gear for that. And then Krishna thought, okay, it's nice to fly like this, but I think that Mother Yashoda might be a little bit worried, might be missing me. So I think it's time to go back. And then he started becoming heavy. And yeah, that actually he was so heavy when Mother Yashoda was trying to, throw him up. But when Trinavarta came, he became very, very light. And Trinavarta absolutely had no problems of carrying Krishna up. And after Krishna decided to go back, return back, he started going more heavy. And Trinavarta was a little bit confused what's happening, that this boy becomes more and more heavy. Then he remembered, okay, I wanted to throw him down. And then he tried to unfasten Krishna, as Krishna was holding him by the neck, right? Like children, they hold adults by the neck. So he was holding Trinavarta by the neck. And Trinavarta was trying to, separate Krishna from himself, but Krishna grabbed Trinavarta very tightly. And Trinavarta just couldn't do that, could do nothing. And Krishna was becoming more and more heavy, and Trinavarta could not go up. And then then he had to stop. And then Krishna started pulling him down to the ground by becoming more and more heavy. And Trinavarta, and meanwhile, as we know, Mother Yashoda discovered that Krishna is missing, and then she became alarmed and started crying and alarmed everyone else. And so they were like running around looking for Krishna. And now you can imagine, like when the bomb is falling with, like making this sound, very specific sound. This kind of sound is coming from the sky, and something, like huge is coming to the ground. And then you can imagine the impact. I mean, 800,000 miles. It's not a joke. So Trinavarta fell down from such a height, and he got not just crushed against the ground, he was just smashed into, like tiny little pieces, basically speaking. And that's why Bhagavatam describes all his limbs were this, like got separated from his body. But yeah, and also he didn't even land on the ground. That there was a big flat rock in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj. Just whatever rock was there. And Srinavarta's karma was so bad that he didn't even land on the ground. He landed on that hard rock. And but Krishna had very nice landing because he landed on the top of Trinavarta, right? And so when Trinavarta was totally, smashed against this rock, Krishna was still playing on his chest. And then Mother Yashoda came and picked Krishna up. Of course, they were happy. But yeah, this is what Krishna was doing. So shall we go to the next one? We still have little time. Read another first. 7.
वैसैन्ये मात्रा बद्धौदूखले गच्छन् अर्जुनयोर्मध्ये बाहुभ्यां तावपातयत्.
Translation.
Once his mother tied him with ropes to a mortar because she had caught him stealing butter. Then, crawling on his hands, he dragged the mortar between a pair of Arjun trees and pulled them down.
Mm-hmm.
The 2 Arjuna trees were old and thick, and they towered above little Krishna's courtyard. Nevertheless, they were pulled down quite easily by the naughty child.
Yeah. So, Arjun trees we hear are special trees which have very, very strong roots. That it's not like even in case of hurricanes, which uproot other trees. Normally, these kind of trees, they remain standing because their roots are very, very strong, and the root system is very wide. So it's nearly impossible to uproot them. And then Krishna was tied to that grinding mortar, and he dragged it between those trees, and the mortar stuck between those trees, and Krishna pulled, and the trees were uprooted. And everybody knows what kind of rope Yashoda used ultimately to tie Krishna down. it was not even a rope. The ultimate thing which actually tied Krishna down, because they used all the ropes and none of the ropes was sufficient to tie Krishna down. And then Mother Yashoda, as a last remedy, took a ribbon from her hair, and Krishna was tied down by this ribbon. And Krishna could never break away because Mother Yashoda's love was so strong. The only comparison is Radharani's love, right? Their love, both of their love towards Krishna is so strong that Krishna becomes completely arrested by this love and he can do nothing. And I mean, you can imagine uprooting two mighty trees with a ribbon. So it's like something completely unbelievable, unimaginable, but Krishna is doing all these things. Why he is doing all these unbelievable things? Because he doesn't want atheistic and demonic people understand that he is the Supreme Lord, because they are too sinful for that. It's only those people who have enough piety, spiritual piety, Krishna can reveal in their hearts all the truth about him. And devotees' faith is not sentimental, even though it might appear to be sentimental, but their faith is very scientific. And in that pastime, which probably many of you heard, when Narad Muni was going to the spiritual world to see Lord Narayan, and he met a Brahmana, and Brahmana was asking Narad Muni where he's going, and he said, going to see Lord Narayan. And Brahman was asking, can you please check with Lord Narayan, when am I going back to the spiritual world? I'm pretty sure that it will happen in the end of this lifetime, but just in case, it's good to ask. And Narad Muni said, fine, I will do that. And next, he met the cobbler, and cobbler also asked Narad Muni, when will I be able to see Lord Narayan? When will I go back home, back to him? And Narad Muni also promised the cobbler to ask on his behalf. And when he went to Lord Narayan, he explained that the cobbler will go back home, back to Godhead already in this lifetime. But the Brahmana will have to wait for many, many more lifetimes before he comes to me. And Narad Muni became surprised, and he asked him, how is that? Because Brahmana is performing so many spiritual activities, but cobbler, apparently his position and his work is much lower. And Lord Narayan said, it's because cobbler's faith in me is so great, and Brahmana, despite of his position, he doesn't really have much faith in me. And you will learn it when you will tell, when you go back, when they ask you, what did Lord Narayan do in the spiritual world? And you tell them that I was threading the elephant through the eye of the needle. And Narad Muni went back, and first he went to the Brahmana, and Brahman was asking, so what was the response of Lord Narayan? And Narad Muni said, I didn't want to disappoint you, but Lord Narayan said you will go back home to him, but it will take you many more lifetimes before that happens. And Brahmana became very upset, and he said, I can't believe it. I mean, I'm supposed to be going back home already at the end of this lifetime. But I doubt that you even went to Lord Narayan. And if you really did, you will be able to tell me what was Lord Narayan doing when you met him. And Narad Muni said, yes, Lord Narayan was threading the elephant through the eye of the needle. And Brahman started laughing, and he said, this is the proof that you actually never went to Lord Narayan in the first place, because how this is possible that one can thread elephant through the eye of the needle. So that was that. And then he went to the cobbler, and actually the very first thing cobbler asked him that, have you been to the spiritual world? Have you seen Lord Narayan? Please tell me what my Lord was doing. And Narad Muni said he was threading the elephant through the eye of the needle. And the cobbler became ecstatic upon hearing that, and he said, it's amazing how great is my Lord. He can thread even the elephant through the eye of the needle. But Narad Muni wanted to check whether this faith of the cobbler was just a sentiment or blind faith. And he said, how can you believe this statement so easily? How this is possible? How can one, even the Supreme Lord, thread the elephant through the eye of the needle? And cobbler was sitting under the banyan tree, and I don't know if all of you have seen banyan tree, even though many of them are growing in India. And so banyan trees have fruit, and these fruits have seeds. Most likely, not many of you have seen those, but banyan tree belongs to the fig tree family, or probably the other way around. Figs belong to the banyan tree family anyway. It's the same family, same category. And you know, I believe all of you tried figs, and you know the size of the fig seed. So, and since this cobbler was sitting under the banyan tree, one seed of the banyan tree, which was like so small, it was even hard to see. And he said that this tree is containing a huge, I mean, this seed is containing huge banyan tree. And if the Lord can pack such a huge tree into such a small seed, what's the big deal for him to take elephant through the eye of the needle? And then Narad Muni realized that not only this cobbler has absolute faith in the Lord, but this faith is totally scientific, that this cobbler has greater intelligence than the Brahmana. And so he realized that why Lord said he was qualified to go to the spiritual world. Actually, our level of faith is the only indicator. I mean, it's not only indicator, but this is one of the greatest indicators of our spiritual advancement. And then Narad Muni said, yeah. And also Lord Narayan said, you will go back home, back to Godhead already in this lifetime, which of course made the cobbler very happy. So, yeah, that devotee's faith is not sentimental, but it is scientific. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So anyone has any comments or questions? I think we're having good time discussing Krishna Lila here. Nighttime stories. Bedtime stories.
But Govardhan hill lifting, was it last in a chronological order of Krishna's pastime? Because I think everything happened before that, Kaliya and forest fire and all other things. So was it the last one? Because I think after
Well, I
that,
mean, no, after that, Krishna will perform many more pastimes. He's only 7 years old. He will continue performing his pastimes until he's 125. And yet,
the
there
Vrindavan.
are more pastimes in Vrindavan as well.
Okay. Mhm.
Because he will stay in Vrindavan for 4 more years. But this was definitely outstanding pastime, Govardhan Lila. One of the most famous pastimes of Krishna. All right. Anyone else has any comments, questions?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare
You mentioned that faith is one of the greatest indicators of advancement. And so I was just wondering, is there a way for us to, I guess, kind of measure our own faith, or measure it and increase it? How do we do that?
How do we measure and increase our faith? Yeah, you need a special yardstick. I came across one joke once that give man an inch and he will think he is a ruler. So I guess you need special ruler to measure your faith. But of course, it's all joke, because the only possibility of measure or understand our faith is, as Radhanath Maharaj nicely explains, that can come through in challenging circumstances, in trying circumstances, in the circumstances when we become influenced by doubts, and then, of course, the more doubts we have about Krishna and Krishna consciousness, then less faith we have. So, yeah, because great devotees, they absolutely have no doubts, neither in Krishna nor in the process of Krishna consciousness. And yeah, even though they go through tons of trials and tribulations, and you can see so many examples in Bhagavatam and other scriptures how great devotees, they go through unbelievable tests, you can say, which would easily break faith of anyone who is less advanced. You can read in the 9th chapter of the first canto of Bhagavatam how Bhishmadev, when he was lying on the bed of arrows, even he was surprised what kind of trials and tribulations Kunti Devi and Pandava had to go through. But it never decreased their faith in Krishna. And it's amazing. I mean, sometimes people with less faith, they go through some tribulations and they say, where is God? I mean, did God forsaken me? Probably there is no God, because if God would be there and I'm his devotee, and why would he want me to go through all this, right? And so many times, based on that, they give up their faith. They become materialistic or atheistic or whatever. But their trials and tribulations are nothing comparing to trials and tribulations Pandavas went through. And it's like, I think there was a famous case of one priest, or maybe rabbi, can't remember. Anyway, one big spiritual leader, and something happened to him that he was doing some shopping in a mall, and he had a little child with him and his child. And then there was some shooting outside of the mall. Some gangsters or whoever were shooting. And then a bullet killed his child. And he became atheist just because of that. He was thinking, I dedicated my life to God, and how he allowed this to happen to me, right? Because I'm such a great and important devotee. But Draupadi, for example, all her children, I mean, he had 5 sons, and of course, sons are very, very important, especially in royal families, because they are potential heir of the throne. And so it's not just for the family, not just for little me, it's for the whole country, like future kings, best of the best, specially trained, etc., etc. Great hopes invested in princesses, right? Or in princess, whatever. So, and then Ashwatthama murders each and every son of her, 5 children. Not only her faith does not diminish in Krishna because of that, but she even manages to forgive Ashwatthama. So it's really unbelievable. And this is just a tiny little episode, tiny little sample of the struggles Pandavas went through, but it never broke their faith. So that's a good example, and there are many, many more other examples in Bhagavatam which show how great is faith of those pure devotees, which is totally unbreakable. Under no circumstances it breaks, this faith. So when next trial will come, we will know how strong our faith is.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you.
Welcome. Hare Krishna. All right, so thank you all very much. And then I think we have class tomorrow, right?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, so everyone's happy with our reading nights?
Yeah.
Shall we continue?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay. All right, so good night and have sweet dreams of Krishna and stay safe. Luckily, the pandemic seems to be going down already, so soon we might be out of the lockdown and use the remaining opportunity to strengthen your Krishna consciousness. Use the balance of time for your spiritual practices and studies and services. Hare Krishna. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki
Jai.
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 Jai Gaur Premanande.
Hri Hri
Hare
Bol.
Bol.
Uh,
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj.